Hello.
Hello little dreamers and grown-ups too. This is your cozy corner of calm, a soft little bedtime campfire to gather around every night. Tonight's stories are for anyone who's had a big day. Tonight on Benny and the Bedtime Clouds, a gentle glow that whispers secrets in the dark, a parade of ducks dancing in the rain's embrace, a snail song that teaches the beauty of slowing down, a workshop where hush is woven into silken dreams, and a cosmic melody that cradles the stars in its arms. These stories were originally created for a little boy named Arthur, the storyteller's son, as part of a quiet, magical bedtime ritual. Now they're shared with families everywhere who want a moment of calm and wonder before sleep. Every story is told by a real person, not AI, because bedtime should feel human and personal and full of heart. If you enjoy these gentle stories, please consider tapping like and subscribe. It really helps this little channel grow, and we'll be right here every night. And to the amazing Little Dreamer Club, our subscribers, thank you. We're so glad to see you back again. Ready? Great. But before we start, let's do our sleepy breaths. Smell the strawberries. Blow the dandelions. There, that's better. Now we're ready for the stories. Benny and the Glowworm Keeper. On a dusky evening, when the sun dipped low and the sky turned a soft lavender, Benny the bear and his tiny mouse friend Pip wandered into the woods. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and honey, and a gentle rustling whispered through the trees. Suddenly, a soft, pulsing light caught their attention, beckoning them deeper into the forest. They followed the glow until they stumbled upon a hidden dell nestled beneath the roots of an ancient oak tree. There they met Charlie, the glowworm keeper, a gentle hedgehog with a round belly and tiny spectacles perched on his nose. He wore a moss-green waistcoat and moved with the quiet patience of someone who listens more than he speaks. In one paw he carried a tiny lantern, and in the other, a dropper filled with sweet morning dew. "Welcome, dear friends," Charlie said, his voice soft and warm like a summer breeze. "I tend to these glowworms, ensuring their lights are soft and sleepy, ready to guide lost nighttime creatures home." As he spoke, Charlie lifted his lantern and gave it the gentlest shake. From within came a chime, not loud, but soft and silver, like starlight turned to sound. "This is my lantern chime," he explained. "Its song helps the glowworms find their rhythm." Benny watched in awe as Charlie squeezed a drop of dew onto a shy glowworm. The little creature's light brightened, pulsing in time with the lantern's melody. Pip fluttered beside another, adding a swirl of moon dust from her tail, helping it shimmer and join the harmony. The dell transformed into a living, breathing blanket of stars, each glowworm glowing gently in rhythm. The lantern chime sang its sleepy tune, weaving through the air like a lullaby, joined by the distant hoot of a sleepy owl. Benny felt a wave of peace wash over him, slow and deep. He nestled into the moss as Pip curled beside him. The the soft music wrapping around them like a silken shawl. With a final glance at Charlie, still tending his glowing friends, lantern in paw, Benny let his eyes drift shut. The chime, the lights, the moon dust, they all faded into a hush of dreams. The end. Benny and the Rainy Duck Parade. On a hot summer evening, the air shimmered with warmth and the sky was painted in hues of gold and pink. Benny and Pip ventured into a lush meadow where the scent of wildflowers mingled with the promise of rain. Suddenly, a gentle, warm drizzle began to fall, and the world transformed into a magical wonderland. As the raindrops danced on the grass, Benny and Pip discovered a secret tradition: the Rainy Duck Parade. A plump, friendly duck with freckles waddled over, inviting them to join the joyful celebration. "Come dance with us," she quacked, her eyes sparkling with delight. Behind her came a whole duck family: proud Papa Duck, gentle Mama Duck, and a long line of fluffy ducklings, each with tiny webbed feet and bright curious eyes. The ducklings peeped excitedly and shook their feathers as the parade began. The ducks lined up in rows and started to march, but not in silence. As their feet splashed into puddles, the meadow filled with a joyful rhythm. "These are the puddle drums," explained the freckled duck. "Each step makes a beat, and every duckling learns the song by heart." The sound was soft and playful, a gentle percussion of splishes, sploshes and splats, joined by cheerful quacks and the patter of rain on leaves. Benny's heart swelled as he watched the ducklings try to copy their parents' steps, tumbling and giggling through the water. Pip fluttered through the air beside them, leaving trails of moon dust that sparkled in the rain. Benny joined the parade, dancing with the freckled duck and tapping his paws in time with the beat. The ducklings waddled in circles, flapping and splashing, their tiny feet adding bright, skippy notes to the puddle drum rhythm. The warm rain fell like a summer lullaby, and the whole meadow became a stage of joy. At the end of the parade, Mama Duck gifted Benny a rain-scented feather, saying, "Keep this for when you forget how to dance." As the drizzle softened and the ducks waddled off toward the pond, Benny and Pip lay back on the damp grass, hearts full of music. The ducklings' peeps faded into the distance, and the rhythm of the puddle stayed with Benny, tapping gently in his dreams. The end. Benny and the Snail Who Said Slow. Beneath a leafy branch, Benny and Pip found a shady nook, perfect for resting after a morning of exploring. The sun filtered through the trees, casting dappled patterns on the mossy ground. As they lay back, a shimmering snail named Paul appeared, moving slowly and deliberately. "Why do you move so gently?" Benny asked, curious about the snail's serene pace. Paul smiled, his pearly shell glistening in the sunlight. "Let me share a story," he said, inching closer. "But first, listen." From the folds of a tiny pouch, Paul lifted a delicate shell whistle carved from a hollowed spiral shell, smooth and opalescent. He blew into it with the gentlest breath, and a soft, whispering tone floated into the air, like a breeze curling through tall grass. Each note lingered and faded, as slow as his movements. The music seemed to hold still, and as it played, Paul began his story. Once, he told them, he had tried to be fast, zipping after a beetle friend through the underbrush. But in his hurry, he missed the magic around him. A bluebell yawning open, a dragonfly sketching shapes in the air, and the sweet smell of mint after rain. I realized that going slow helped me feel more alive, he said softly, the shell whistle echoing his words with gentle notes. Benny and Pip listened, their hearts slowing with each phrase. The melody and Paul's voice wove together, painting a world where beauty blossomed in stillness. Pip floated close, her wings catching the notes like petals on the breeze. When the story ended, Paul blew one final breath into the shell whistle, sending out a note so soft it barely stirred the leaves. Benny and Pip sat quietly, wrapped in the hush that followed. The rustling trees, the warm sun, the breath between notes. It all shimmered with quiet magic. With a sleepy smile, Benny curled up beside Pip, and the last echoes of Paul's story drifted into dream. The end. Benny and the Workshop of Hush. Feeling overwhelmed by the busyness of his thoughts, Benny wandered down a path that seemed to grow quieter with each step. The world around him softened, and soon he found himself at a cozy workshop nestled inside a hollow log. The air smelled of old paper and dried lavender, inviting him in. Inside, a tiny dormouse named Gary, the hushmaker, worked diligently, crafting quiet into tangible things. He wore a little leather apron and round spectacles, his tiny hands moving with practiced grace. Benny and Pip watched in awe as Gary spun threads of stillness on a strange, beautiful instrument, the still string loom. It looked part loom, part harp, with glowing silk strings stretched across a curved wooden frame. As Gary plucked and wove, the loom made a sound like mist settling on water. Barely there, but deeply felt. "Welcome, dear friends," Gary said softly, his voice no louder than a rustle of feathers. "Hush isn't emptiness. It's a collection of the world's softest moments." He reached into a velvet pouch and took a handful of what he called fallen quiet. Bits of silence gathered from between raindrops, under mushrooms, and deep in bedtime sighs. With the still string loom, he gently wove those whispers of calm into a silvery patch of hush. When Gary handed it to Benny, the moment felt timeless. A deep quiet bloomed inside him, the noisy thoughts in his head dissolving like sugar in warm tea. Pip curled gently into his shoulder, her wings catching a lingering note from the loom. As they left the workshop, the world seemed clearer, the breeze through trees, the hum of bees, the soft padding of Benny's own paws. It all became a lullaby. He realized he could carry the hush with him, stitched into the patch and tucked inside his heart. With a sleepy smile, Benny closed his eyes, the memory of Gary's still string loom echoing softly in his dreams. The end. Benny and the Cosmic Handpan. One starry night, Benny and Pip followed a soft, curious sound that shimmered through the air like a dream. It led them upward, floating gently into the night sky. They drifted through a thin veil of mist and found themselves in a hidden celestial realm, quiet as a held breath. At the center of this vast, velvety space stood a glowing handpan, a round, shining instrument that pulsed with light. Surrounding it were orbs of soft color, drifting slowly through the dark like sleepy planets. A tall, slender being made of starlight and shadow stood beside the handpan. They were called the Ori Tender, though Benny didn't need a name to feel safe near them. With graceful paws, the tender tapped the handpan, and each note sent a glowing orb into motion. A deep silver tone sent a blue sphere called Calm gliding across the sky. A higher, dancing note made wonder spin and sparkle. The music was the heartbeat of the sky, and every tone nudged the sleepy stars along their paths. Benny sat quietly beside Pip, watching the orbs swirl and drift. He could feel the music inside him, not loud, but low and round, like the sound of water in a shell. Pip tucked her tiny wings in, her eyes wide with awe, her moon dust trailing softly in the air. The whole space seemed to breathe with the rhythm. Benny felt small but safe, part of something grand and peaceful. As the melody slowed, so did the orbs, floating into stillness. The tender nodded once, and the handpan glowed warm beneath their fingers. Benny closed his eyes, the music still echoing gently through him. The stars dimmed, the sky folded in, and sleep came quietly, like a final note held just for him. The end. Good night, little dreamers.